According to the watch, we are 1 day away from football, so we better get to these rankings and we better help you with your starting lineup. Tier 1, you don't need any help. If you have Chase, if you have Jefferson, you have Lamb, you start them. Well, technically, yes, the Dallas Cowboys project to be a very bad offense this week going up against a really tough matchup with the Eagles. It doesn't matter. They're going to be throwing the ball a ton in the second half, and I think that CeeDee Lamb is going to dominate the target share here over George Pickens. Yes, so CeeDee Lamb is an auto start. Pickens a little shakier. We'll talk about him later on. Tier 2. Brian Thomas Jr. is going to explode week 1. Now, whenever I went through and looked at the Vegas projections, I was shocked to see the Jacksonville Jaguars have an implied team total of 24.75 points this week. If you go through and you look at how many other teams project to score more points than the Jags, it's the Eagles, the Bengals, the Bills, Commanders, Packers, and Broncos. That is it. We don't know what the role is going to be with Travis Hunter. We'll talk about him 1 second. This is a perfect matchup for a wide receiver that exploded at the end of his rookie season. I have zero hesitation to go ahead and GM in Brian Thomas. Nico Collins will be our next wide receiver. You're going up against the Los Angeles Rams. It's the worst offense, but Jaden Higgins is a rookie. Not expecting Higgins to be anything week 1. Jalen Noel may not even touch the field. It's going to be Nico Collins, Christian Kirk. I don't think Kirk's any good at this point. So Nico Collins should get force-fed targets, especially as this team's not going to be able to run the ball with the bad offensive line. And with no Joe Mixon, you're left with Nick Chubb, Woody Marks, and Dameon Pierce. Malik Neighbors will be our next receiver. Now, the Giants project to be a really bad offense. The only teams that project to score fewer points than the Giants this week are the Saints, the Jets, and the Titans. Now, if you were going to be worried about the Giants not scoring a lot of points, you shouldn't have drafted Malik Neighbors in the first place. The thing is, you got to start him regardless because the target volume is going to be insane. You look at flockfantasy.com, you'll see last year Malik Neighbors was the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL with his target share, an absolute lock to play. Now, Puka Nacua will be our next receiver. With Puka, a lot of this is going to hinge on the Matthew Stafford back injury and if you think Stafford's going to be good to go. But the Rams currently are 3-point favorites over the Houston Texans. So sportsbooks are telling us that, yeah, while Stafford pretty much missed all of training camp, and while, yes, a lot of people panicked about this with 3 weeks to go until the season, it looks like Stafford should be fine and you are jamming in Puka. I want to be extremely aggressive with Mike Evans. Maybe Mike Evans went in the 4th round of your fantasy football draft. Maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 wide receivers that we're going to rank after Mike Evans here went ahead of him in your draft. It does not matter. He is a locked and loaded top 10 wide receiver this week. We go through and we look at the projections with the Bucs offense. They project to have an implied team total of 24.5, 25 points. 2.5 point favorites over the Atlanta Falcons. We look at the over-under of this game. This is supposed to be tied for the second highest scoring game of the entire slate, only behind the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. And you have no Chris Godwin. Egbuka's a rookie. Jalen McMillan's not going to play. And even Cade Otton's going to be banged up. Mike Evans going to get force-fed targets. Drake London's on the opposite side of this. Drake London is also going to be an absolute league winner if Darnell Mooney's injury is serious and this lingers into the season. Now, Darnell Mooney has been at practice. It seems like Mooney may play. Of course, Darnell Mooney is not a massive threat to be the wide receiver 1 here. But if you have no Mooney, Drake London could realistically get a similar target share to what you have with like Malik Neighbors. Now, going over and looking at A.J. Brown, I actually wanted to include the A.J. Brown pick'em in the Flock pick'em pack that we created on Underdog Fantasy for tomorrow. I was looking at it going, oh my gosh, I really think that A.J. Brown's going to do great his first game back. I think you could see more passing volume here with the Philadelphia Eagles offense this season than what we had last year. Do I want to go with higher than 68.5 receiving yards? I decided against it there because I do think the Philadelphia Eagles should be able to run the ball over and over and over again. You do have the Eagles, however, projected out currently to be the highest scoring offense in the entire league this week with an implied team total of 27.5, 28 total points. So what I decided to do instead with our Flock pick and pack on Underdog is I decided to take the pick Saquon Barkley to score a touchdown in this game just because the spread's 8.5 points where I think they're going to be able to run over and over and over again. But obviously, if you haven't taken advantage of the boosted Flock pick and pack Underdog let us set up, 100% do that. It's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to be streaming before the game, after the game, so we can ride it together. It's going to be Saquon Barkley to score a touchdown, Dak Prescott to have 230 passing yards, and George Pickens to have fewer than 5 receptions. And if you look at Pickens' career, he's not a high volume target earner, especially playing alongside CeeDee Lamb, more of a big play guy. I love that pick and pack. if that's not for you, they have crazy promos week 1. Saquon Barkley, higher, lower, half a total yard for this Thursday night game. You have a 50% profit boost token for Thursday night, 50% profit boost token for Friday night, 100% profit boost token for the games on Sunday. And they're going to let us do flock pick'em packs every single day. And they're going to let us do special flock pick'em packs for the Friday night and Sunday night games as well. I would love for you to tail those with us. It's on Underdog Fantasy. The craziest promos all year are going to be week 1. And if you use code FLOCK, they're going to add $50 to your account after you play your first 5. Plus, you'll be able to get all those special promos. And if you got the flockfantasy.com season pass, you're going to get an additional $10 added to your Underdog account by filling out the Google form on the site. So just deposit $10. And if you got the season pass, you'll have 70 in your account. And even if you didn't get the season pass, you'll still have 60 with code FLOCK. Now, going over to our next wide receiver, we're going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yes, typically Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to be a lot higher in my rankings. However, the Lions are 2.5-point dogs against the Packers, and the Lions currently project to be the 17th highest scoring offense in the league this week. Last year, the Lions were the number 1 scoring offense in the entire NFL. They project to be the 17th this week. That's due to how good this Packers defense is. I honestly think that in future matchups, the Packers DST honestly could be a great play because they look to be one of the best defenses in the league. Ladd McConkey will be our next receiver. The big concussion for Quentin Johnston. Trey Harris looks like it's going to be nothing early. So it's really just going to be the Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen show early. The Chargers project to be the 22nd highest scoring offense in the league this week. It is a tougher matchup going up against the Chiefs, obviously playing this game in Brazil as well. Going down to our next tier, all these guys are players that I would like to get in my starting lineup if I could. T. Higgins has been a wide receiver that's been plagued with injuries through his NFL career, but every single week that he has been fully healthy, he has given you the ceiling of a top 3 wide receiver finish in the league that week. Right now, the Cincinnati Bengals project to be the 2nd highest scoring offense in the league. You have a 5.5-point spread against the Cleveland Browns. This defense is still just as bad as it was a year ago. At least that's what sportsbooks are telling us, saying that the Browns of all teams with Joe Flacco are actually going to be able to score a considerable amount of points here. So I think T. Higgins is an auto start any week that he's healthy. Tyreek Hill will be our next wide receiver. With Tyreek, of course, I want to be a little bit hesitant. This is a wide receiver that was horrendous last year. Of course, Tua was injured and Tyreek was injured himself, but he's still dealing with an oblique injury at this point. So this will be something that we have to continue to monitor. If Tyreek Hill is completely off the injury report, he looks like he's 100% good to go, then I think maybe you can eventually rank him as a wide receiver 1 again, but I'm going to be a little hesitant. And I did just see that the Miami Dolphins are not listing Tyreek Hill as a captain on the team, and this is the first time that they've done that since he joined the team back in like 2022. Now, Jackson Smith-Njigba will be our next wide receiver. With JSN going up against the Niners, you have a 21-point total. I am a little bit concerned of the over-under of this game. It's only 43.5 points. Like, it should be one of the lower scoring games of the week. Obviously, with JSN, I'm going to project him to be the wide receiver 1 in this offense. But inherently, there is a little bit of uncertainty knowing that we have not seen this offense with the offensive coordinator, with Cooper Kupp, with Sam Darnold all together. Now, Xavier Worthy will be our next receiver. Xavier Worthy typically is not going to be this high in my rankings. I mean, rest of season, you obviously are going to get Rashee Rice back in here. And then at that point, maybe you need to be a little bit more concerned. But for the time being, Xavier Worthy is really the number 1 weapon in this Chiefs offense and is not even remotely close. I don't think Kelsey's the same target earner that he was early in his career. If we go back and look at what Worthy did at the very end of his rookie season, combine that with the NFL playoffs as well, he was giving you that similar rookie breakout that we saw from Rashee Rice at the very end of his rookie season. Now, Ted McMillan is a wide receiver that I've been asked 1,000 questions about. Everybody wants to know if they can start him. And 9 times out of 10, my answer with the rookie wide receiver is, you know what? You don't get extra points to start him on his breakout. You don't need to start him and say, this is the week I'm calling my shot. You can always wait with the rookie receiver. You can see them out there, see the amount of routes that they get to run. And then when they are productive and they have that breakout, you can start them the following week. That's not going to be the case here with Ted. Because again, if we go look at the over-under of this game, you currently do have the Jacksonville Jaguars, Indianapolis Colts with an over-under of 46.5 points. Should be a really good game environment. You have no Adam Thielen anymore. They went out there and they cut Hunter Renfrow, indicating, yeah, Hunter Renfrow's nothing. Then Jalen Coker had to go to the IR. They had to go back and pick up Hunter Renfrow. I have Xavier Legette in a lot of underdog best ball drafts. I hope he does well, but in reality, Legette's proved nothing his rookie season. Ted McMillan was an elite level prospect. If you look at his market share coming out of school, in my opinion, he is one of the 5 best wide receiver prospects that we've seen over the past 3 seasons. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to jam Ted in week 1, 0 hesitation. Devontae Adams will be our next receiver. With Adams, this will be his 3rd offense in 2 years. He's also going to be 32 years old. So I have some concerns, to be honest with you. Also, you have to have some concerns surrounding the Matthew Stafford back injury, but you still probably start Devontae Adams. I'd just be very hesitant if anybody's acting like he's a locked and loaded top 10 wide receiver regardless. Marvin Harrison Jr. will be our next option. Nobody has a wider range of outcomes this year than Harrison. Harrison could be straight up unusable like he was last season, or Marvin Harrison Jr. could turn out to be a top 3 wide receiver in fantasy. Really, the only target competition is Trey McBride. Michael Wilson's the wide receiver 2 here. You have a good environment going up against the New Orleans Saints, an implied team total of about 24 points. If we are going to look at what we have with the spread on this game, though, it does indicate that you could possibly just have a lot of James Conner and Trey Benson in the second half running the ball over and over and over again. Now, Cortland Sutton will be our next receiver. With Sutton, you maybe have the same concern. The spread in this game with the Titans is 7.5 points. So maybe the Denver Broncos are just going to run the ball over and over and over again with J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey in the second half. But I think Sutton showed at the very end of last year after the Bo Nix breakout that he does have that low-end wide receiver 1 upside. Terry McLaurin will be our next wide receiver. You have a very high total here for the Commanders. The only offenses that project to score more points are going to be the Bengals and the Eagles. You have a 6.5 point spread against the Giants. Terry McLaurin is going to have to go up against Deebo Samuel here week 1, which obviously we haven't seen before. The only thing that I'll say is we saw the Brandon Ayuk saga with the contract situation play into the season last year, where Brandon Ayuk missed training camp. So obviously he started off incredibly slow and incredibly disappointing. I'm not saying that's going to be a guarantee to be Terry McLaurin, but I'd potentially be a little bit concerned with it. Now, going over to our next tier, we're going to have DJ Moore here. DJ Moore is in a spot where I think you're going to be concerned long-term about the target competition in this offense, where you are going to deal with Rome Odunze, you're going to deal with Luther Burden, and you're going to deal with Loveland in the long term. But realistically, in the short term, I would assume that the rookies probably don't play a massive role week 1. This is a matchup against the Minnesota Vikings where the spread's very close. It is going to probably be the most exciting game to watch of the week just because the coaching staff changes in Chicago combined with J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. But DJ Moore should be the wide receiver 1 for me week 1. Zay Flowers is going to be ranked very high in my rankings this week because the matchup against the Buffalo Bills. The Baltimore Ravens are a phenomenal NFL team. And for that reason, we are going to see the Baltimore Ravens favored in the vast majority of games that they're going to play, where they're going to be able to run the ball over and over and over again with Derrick Henry in the second half. However, this is one of the very few times you will ever see the Baltimore Ravens as dogs in a matchup. The Buffalo Bills are favored in this game by about 1.5 points. Now, obviously, this kind of tells us it should be a close game, and it does have shootout potential. The over-under of this game is 50.5 points, which is the highest over-under that we have on the entire week. Now, Garrett Wilson's going to be playing in the game that has the lowest over-under at 38.5. So there should not be many points scored in this offense. There shouldn't be many points scored in this game. Right now, the New York Jets project to be the second lowest scoring offense in the league, tied with the New Orleans Saints and only ahead of the Tennessee Titans. Garrett Wilson should have a very safe target floor just because he's the only guy that they're going to throw the ball to in terms of the market share numbers. But the issue is this team also may not have a ton of passing attempts with Justin Fields because, again, Justin Fields, when you have a drop back, it's not guaranteed to actually be a pass. Justin Fields could take it himself. Now, Jameson Williams will be our next receiver. With Jameson, I think I may want to put him behind Devonta Smith even. Because again, like going back to the Lions, 22.5 point total. They are dogs to the Packers. It's going to be a really tough matchup. New offensive coordinator. I know a lot of people are super excited about a potential Jameson Williams breakout. But realistically, if the Lions have the lowest implied team total that we have seen from them in over 2 years, where sportsbooks are telling us that we need to expect massive regression for this offense, especially in a tough matchup against the Packers, A Jameson, you could possibly bench him for Devonta Smith. Smith going to be in a much higher scoring game environment. Let me pull up what we have on Underdog right now. Devonta Smith on Underdog is higher, lower, 52.5 receiving yards, whereas Jameson Williams at the moment is higher, lower, 49.5. And Jameson's only higher, lower, 3.5 receptions. See, I guess the volume's not going to be there for Jameson. Obviously, you have the big play appeal, though. I do think we should maybe move Jameson Williams down a bit. All these rankings are going to consistently be updated on flockfantasy.com every single day. So you should be able to see all the updates there, especially if we get any injury news or anything. DK Metcalf will be our next guy. Looking at DK Metcalf, I'm going to be starting him in the Flock League. But again, going back to what we're talking about with this game environment, the Steelers project to be like the 6th lowest scoring offense in the league this week. Again, this is going to be the lowest scoring game in general. Will be super exciting to see what happens here in the Steelers offense and if Aaron Rodgers has turned to just total dust. I'm going to be starting Jerry Jeudy in the Flock League as well. Jerry Jeudy typically is not going to be this high in my rankings, but the Browns are typically not going to be this good on offense. Right now, the Browns are projected this week to outscore the Texans, the Steelers, the Seahawks, the Raiders, the Giants, the Cowboys, the Jets, the Saints, the Titans. The Browns are supposed to be the 10th worst offense in the league this week, where most weeks they're going to project to be the worst. But you have Joe Flacco in here. We know Flacco's going to be the DGAF quarterback where maybe he throws a pick, but if anything, that's going to be good for Jeudy because it's going to put them in garbage time in the second half where they have to air the ball out. And if we are looking at this overall setup, you don't have a wide receiver 2 of significance. People are talking about Harold Fannin getting involved in a lot of 2 tight end sets just because you don't have a wide receiver 2 to be excited about. Now, Jalen Waddle will be our next receiver. With Waddle, he was unusable last season, even when Tua was healthy. Trust me, I had this dude on my team. It was horrendous. But you can maybe say, all right, well, you have no Jonnu Smith. The vibes are really bad when it comes to what you have with Tyreek Hill right now. Obviously, Tyreek being another year older, in theory, if you look at Jalen Waddle's age, he should kind of be in his prime. But I don't know. Game environment's going to be fine against the Indianapolis Colts. Should be a good game. Like, I would be more confident in starting Waddle where we have the long track record over like George Pickens and Igbuka. If we look at George Pickens, I understand everybody is so damn excited. And hopefully he performs well on Thursday night. And again, the Dallas Cowboys are going to have to throw the ball a ton because the spread in this game is currently 8.5 points. I believe this is actually hilarious to see. The spread on the Eagles-Cowboys game is the largest spread on the entire week. So they're going to have to throw the ball in the second half. But again, you go through and you look historically, George Pickens hasn't been a high target volume earner. He's just kind of been somebody that wins at the catch point and can deliver big plays. And I think it's going to be a lot better in the context that you have Dak Prescott instead of Kenny Pickett. You have Dak Prescott instead of Russell Wilson. So the efficiency should be better. So I'm definitely ranking George Pickens a lot higher than I would have if he was on the Steelers. But you do also have the alpha wide receiver to contend with. So I still stand by us going through and putting him lower than 4.5 receptions in that underdog pick'em. Because realistically, you look at his NFL career, very rarely is he hitting 5 receptions in a game. Now, Igbuka will be our next receiver. With Igbuka, he's going to be in a much better offense and a much better game environment as well. And at the same time, he is pretty much destined to play 80+% of the snaps and run 80+% of the routes. So if we are looking at this, I wouldn't mind at all you going through, getting him in week 1. I think he projects to be better than some of the veterans that I have ahead of him in this tier. But my issue at the end of the day with it is, like, again, with the rookies, where we've never seen them in the NFL. We haven't seen what these roles are going to be like. We're just frankly guessing. I feel like you could wait to see it before you believe it. Now, going over to our next tier, we're going to have Ricky Pearsall. If we are looking at Pearsall, you need to understand that Jawan Jennings missed all of training camp. Brandon Ayuk is nowhere to be seen. So Pearsall is set up as the wide receiver 1 for the Niners. Of course, George Kittle is going to be the top target. Of course, they're going to force feed everything through McCaffrey. Right now on Underdog, Christian McCaffrey has the highest yardage mark of any other running back for his high or lower. So It's going to be funneled through the running back. It's going to be funneled through the tight end. Ricky Pearsall was great in the final 2 weeks last season. But again, I feel like this is starting the player before we've seen the legitimate breakout. Going over and looking at Chris Olave. Chris Olave is like higher, lower, 49.5 receiving yards on Underdog. It's ugly. The implied team total puts the Saints as the third lowest scoring offense in the league this week. Actually tied for the second lowest with the New York Jets. So this is going to be the issue with Olave all year. You just have arguably the worst team in the league with the worst quarterback play in the league. Rome Odunze will be our next wide receiver. With Rome, horrendous all his rookie season. He actually got worse as his rookie year went on. Wasn't usable. I would rather not start him, even if we are projecting him to take significant steps forward. Because again, I think he almost falls in the similar boat to like Ricky Pearsall, Egbuka, where it's like, yeah, I think this guy has a lot of upside. and I think you can be excited about him long term. But I'm sure you can have like 3 or 4 of these players on your team where I'm like, we can just kind of see it before we believe it. Like with Calvin Ridley, I would want to play him over Rome. I'd want to play him over Olave. I'd want to play him over Ricky Pearsall. Hell, I'd want to play him over Pickens. I'd want to play him over Egbuka. I would want to get Calvin Ridley over like 10 guys that we have ahead of him because we've seen Calvin Ridley through his entire career. The issue you're going to have with Ridley is the Tennessee Titans currently project to be the worst offense in the league this week. It's not really their fault. They have to go up against the toughest defense in the NFL with the Denver Broncos. And you have Cam Ward making his first start ever against the toughest defense in the NFL with Calvin Ridley having a brutal matchup. So I would like to avoid Ridley. Travis Hunter, I would like to avoid as well. Again, we are ranking Brian Thomas aggressively because this game environment against the Carolina Panthers is great. It's a phenomenal matchup. Ton of points are projected to be scored in this game. They are told us at points that Travis Hunter is going to play 80% of the snaps, run 80% of the routes. I can't exactly tell you how true that's going to be, but I think he falls in the bucket like I would rather see it before we have to believe it. Deebo Samuel, same thing here. Deebo Samuel, last year he was horrendous. This season, he's set up in a good spot where this team has no established running back. You could see him used in gimmicky ways. It's supposed to be a super high-scoring offense. Terry McLaurin missed all of camp. So I understand the excitement for Deebo, but again, let's see it before we believe it. He was horrendous last year. Matthew Golden, I completely understand the excitement. Right now, the Packers, the only offenses project score better than them are the Bills, Commanders, Bengals, and Eagles. Like tied to be the 5th highest scoring offense in the league. You have Jaden Reed with a broken foot essentially that he's playing through. So it's like Matthew Golden has the wide receiver 1 spot almost on lock at this point in a high scoring offense. But I kind of want to see it before we believe it. He wasn't really that great at the University of Texas if you look at his production profile. And going over to Michael Pittman Jr. at 39. It's a great matchup going up against the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to have him ahead of Josh Downs in the rankings this week because Josh Downs has been dealing with a hamstring injury. But again, Michael Pittman Jr. played with a broken back last year, so he was horrible. So I kind of want to see it before I believe it. Going over and looking at Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, good environment against the Raiders. The Patriots project to be a slightly above average offense with 23 points scored. They are favored by about 2.5 points. I'm not expecting Kyle Williams to be anything week 1. No other wide receiver on this team at any point has been successful. I guess Demario Douglas has been usable. But with Stephon Diggs, you're 32 years old coming off a torn ACL. I would like to see it before I believe it. Now, the issue is I'm starting this dude in the Flock League. It's a 12-team format with multiple flex spots. It's like, do I start Stephon Diggs or Travis Etienne? I'm having to get him in. But I would hope that if you're like a 10-team league or you're in a league with only one flex, that you're benching him. Khalil Shakir. Shakir could be a lot higher if he was fully healthy. And this will be something that we just continuously have to update on flockfantasy.com as we get closer to Sunday. Obviously, I'll be answering start-sit questions on the live stream every night as well. But I think Shakir is going to be a wide receiver that we just really have to monitor the injury with. And if he is fully healthy, I'd move him up dramatically because it should be a really good game environment. Jacoby Myers, new coaching staff, new quarterback. He requests a trade. They take multiple rookie wide receivers in the draft. So, well, Myers was much better than this last year with the requested trade and all the changes in the offseason. I don't know how guaranteed we can be that he is locked and loaded as the guy. Keon Coleman as our next wide receiver. Not good last season, but good game environment. And again, Shakir's banged up. If Shakir were to miss this game somehow, Keon would fly up these rankings. I'm Josh Downs. I'm just throwing him here. It's a good game environment. I would have him a lot higher in the rankings if he was fully healthy. He's going to have to be somebody that I tweak with the rankings throughout the week, given his hamstring injury. And then other guys that I'll be tweaking with the rankings throughout the week on flockfantasy.com are going to be Jaden Reed, Jawan Jennings, Cooper Kupp, Shaheed, Rashad Bateman, Christian Kirk. These are like the other wide receivers that I would consider if you're in like a super deep format. But obviously we're going to have to like monitor some injuries, such as like the Jaden Reed foot and the Jawan Jennings calf. But Jennings is at practice right now. But I appreciate you, and I am very much looking forward to Thursday night. If you wanted to have some fun with it, again, Underdog is having the craziest week of promos that they do all year. A Saquon Barkley gimme pick, higher, lower, half a total yard on Thursday night. 50% profit boost token on Thursday night. 50% profit boost token on Friday night. 100% profit boost token on Saturday night. And additional promos on Sunday and Monday. They're letting us create flock pick'em packs every night this week for the Thursday night game, Friday night game, and the Sunday night game. I would love for you to tail that with us. And again, use code FLOCK. After you play your first $5, you're going to get $50 added in your account. And on top of that, if you got the season pass, fill out the Google form on flockfantasy.com. You'll get an additional $10 added to your Underdog account. So if you deposit $10, play 5, you'll have $70 in your account with a bunch of free promos and the flock boosted packs that you can take advantage of. I'm going to leave the link in the description, comment section. Love for you to have some fun with us on Underdog, as we're going to be on it all season.